evening, everybody. It's Rich here. Welcome to Talking Cricket. And we are actually going to talk positively tonight. England managed to draw. I know, put the flags out. We've stopped the rot. The green shoots of recovery are well underway. This show is titled Red Ball Reset. It will be available as a audio, hopefully in the morning. Martin will get that out. So wherever you get your podcasts from, search Talking Cricket. Tell your friends about us. If you're watching on YouTube live or you're watching back, please do hit the like button and please hit the subscribe button because it all helps and it makes Martin very happy. Anyway, tonight we're going to talk about the first test review, player ratings, bit of praise for Jack Leach. I'm not sure what Ian's going to say about that because he's a big Matt Parkinson fan. England women's team, we could do a little piece on them. Changes for Barbados and, any other business. Good evening to the Durrants in the chat, Colin Plum and Ben Hobbs. And if you're watching, go and tell all your friends about us. We've also got a Twitter page at One Talking Cricket. So if you're on Twitter, give us a follow on there. Anyway, tonight we have got Brandon, we've got Ian, and we've got Rob. And we've also got, making his debut tonight, is the wonderful Matt from Jill's in the Blood. If you are a football fan, he does a brilliant podcast. He's normally asking the questions. So tonight it'll be good that I can ask him the questions. How are you doing, fellas?
Very well, mate. Thank you.
Good, mate.
Not too bad. Not too bad.
So what do we think then? England, they got a draw. Positivity, the Red Ball reset, Brandon. We're underway. I know it didn't quite go to plan on the first morning, but I think we come out of that test with quite a lot of positives, didn't we?
I agree. I think the problem we had in the Ashes is we would win a session, but then we would follow it up by losing 2 or 3 in a row after that, and we couldn't join up sessions to then win days.
Rewind. Did we actually win a session in the Ashes?
Yeah, Milan and Root won a couple of sessions in my eyes. We had them 4 down for not many, a couple of times. But I think the ability of winning days of Test cricket is how you then end up being in the situation where you can win the game. And I think that's how we got to the point where we had the chance to win on the last day. I think there's a couple of things that I'm sure we'll touch on, which we certainly could have done better. But I think we could have been in a whole heap of trouble if Bairstow didn't score the first innings runs, because our top order, again, didn't perform the way they should in the first innings. But I think they show the right mentality, the pitch aside, to then go out there and right their wrongs. The people who didn't score runs in the first inning scored runs in the second. And it's not going to happen overnight, is there? There's always going to be collapses because as a team we haven't really bedded in yet. But I think it's a good start to the process. And as I said, there's some things I'm sure we'll touch on later which weren't great, but there's certainly more positives than there were negatives.
So I've got a question for you all and all the people in the chat, and I'll give you 5 minutes. Ian's had a bit of a head start. I hope he hasn't been on Google because I did ask him earlier. So Alex Lee's made his test debut. He's playing now at Durham. What has Alex Lee's and Sir Leonard Hutton got in common?
I don't actually know who that is.
Well, you're disqualified.
Alex Lees plays for Durham.
I know Alex. Yeah, no, I know Alex Lees. I don't know the other bloke, I'm afraid.
Please do. I want to see you on your phone, Matt. I don't want to see you looking down. Try Google it.
That's just my notes I keep dropping.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll give you 5 minutes and then I will answer a question. So coming to you, Matt, obviously we touched on there a lot of positives. So won the toss. What did you think to the pitch? Because the pitch has come in for quite a lot of criticism, hasn't it, really?
It wasn't a test match pitch, was it? It was too easy, let's be honest, to bat on. Once you got yourself, aside from probably the first morning, I think where any remnants of any moisture or green on the pitch went after probably a session and a half. I thought it was a decent test match, but let's be honest, it's between two gut teams that are some way from where they want to be and some way from where they have been in the past. I mean, we only have to look at the name of the trophy, don't we? The Richards Botham Trophy. There's probably not many players in either side combined at the levels of Sir Vivian Richards and Sir Ian Botham. And it reminds me a little bit, to go back to football, no disrespect, of two teams probably stuck in League One that have been in the Premier League and that type of thing. I'm not naming any names, obviously. I don't want to upset people on the show on my debut. But that's the sort of feeling it had as a test match. It was two honest sides going at it.
I want you grinning up the top there, Rob. Wolves were in League One at one time.
We were indeed, mate. We were indeed. Then the cash came.
But yeah, the pitch didn't help, did it? Let's be honest. It wasn't doing a lot until it probably started turning, halfway through the middle session on day 5.
And that was slow term, wasn't it, Ian?
There was nothing that was really jumping up. There was a couple that kept low, but there was nothing that was really spitting out of the rough and causing people problems.
They said, I think it was on the first day, they were saying, I think a day out, the pitch was quite cracked, Ian, and they sprinkled it with water, and then they said that sealed it, and it didn't break up at all. Look, I personally, you just got to look at the minute. You've got that pitch in Antigua, and then you look at Pakistan, where Australia over there. The first test was a ball draw. Australia, they've got 500. Was it 500 for 8 today off 180 overs? That's going to be it's not really what we want to watch, is it?
No, but I suppose it's better than having 2.5 days and the pitch being dangerous. I think it was a docile wicket. I think it's going to be a little bit more lively in Barbados, and let's hope so. Whether or not that was prepared to nullify and negate Mark Wood's pace. Obviously, the poor lad's injured now with an elbow injury. I can't see him being risked for Barbados or being fit. But yeah, maybe it was prepared on purpose. But people still had to dig in, and it was good to see men round the bat. It was almost like a proper test at the end there. I thought it was quite a positive declaration from Joe Root, and all in all, I thought it was a decent test match. But the docile pitch probably took the result away from either team. But as Matt said, we're talking about two teams. I think England are 4th and the West Indies 8th in the ICC ranking. So it's like two bald men fighting over the shampoo, isn't it, to a degree? We're just not up there. We're just not up there at this moment in time.
Were you surprised, Rob, with the declaration, because a lot of talk overnight. I see Zach Crawley obviously got a ton, and he was on we're going to be really positive in the morning. And I thought, is there enough time really to force a result? But I thought that was a real... Look, it's the first test of the series. They probably knew with... the wicket was really slow. They needed 4 and over. That was probably never going to happen, really, was it? If we're being honest.
No, so just numbers-wise, it was 281 off 76 overs, which, if you look at it, they finished at 140, so they got halfway. You're absolutely right, Rich. It was the first game of the series. Red Bull reset. We didn't want to lose the game. You could have cashed out a bit earlier and set them about 250 off 80, 82. Would have probably been a touch better. Looking at the batting in the second innings, I was really pleased with Lawrence, the way he went about it, really selfless. When we come on to the player ratings, the only reason I didn't give Bairstow a 10 was because he didn't really kick. He didn't really go mad one-day mode. We were a bit sort of slow and a bit tentative in the morning. But like you've touched on, Rich, we just didn't want to lose that game. So 281 off 76, 4 and over. Leach was only ever going to go for less than 2s. The nature of the pitch, their batting lineup, the way Bonner just sponges up all those dots, they were never going to get it, were they?
493 balls he batted in the test match for once out.
Do we think, though, perhaps that the declaration came a little bit later than it probably could have come because of the way that Chris Wokes and Mark Overton bowled in the first innings, and they rattled it along for, just over 4 and over for 83 runs, didn't they? That might have been in Joe Root's mind, that if Wokes and Overton had come out and bowled like that again, they could have got off to a flyer, and then suddenly might have only been needing 2.5, 3 and over, chasing 240, 250. That might have then suddenly got the West Indies back in terms of being favourites to chase it down on the final day.
Yeah, I thought it was a good declaration. They lost a bit of time, didn't they, on day 4, with a bit of rain. But I think we always knew that it was going to take a big ask for them. Look, we had I want to touch on the umpiring in this Test match, because I don't think, Brandon, it's been the greatest. I think that's being kind to both. Joel Wilson is probably one of the worst Test match umpires I've seen for a long time. He's really poor, isn't he?
Yeah, I think the quality of umpiring since DRS has come in has gone down, and I think that's obvious, and that's arguably why DRS came in to overturn the obvious errors. But that also takes time out of days, doesn't it? You lose overs because when the rain comes, you haven't got the overs in because of these DRS reviews, which are just wasting time. It's obviously not out when they've middled it into their front pad, or if it's going down leg by 2 yards, like the Crawley one in the second innings. But
that was a shocker. That was a shocker.
Yeah, and with I know that obviously I'm sure we'll touch on it a bit later on. I know that England didn't use their reviews as well as they probably could have in their second innings. I mean, that could have been another chance to win it when we had Holder LBW with about 25 overs left or something like that, because West Indies have got a very long tail. I mean, they've probably got 4 number 11s at the bottom, haven't they? So, the umpiring's not great, but I'm not surprised by it anymore. I don't think umpiring's been great for a long time. You're surprised, and the umpires get a lot of praise when they've had a good day, and I think that goes to show the expectations we sort of have on them now. I mean, they couldn't even press the right button, could they, for one of the run-outs? So I think England started to celebrate, thinking, what the hell? And then it was like, oh, he's pressed the wrong button.
It wasn't the greatest.
Sums up.
James Parker there in the comments. Shout out for Joe Root. He's gone. He's the most centuries as England captain now on 24. But yeah, getting back to the first morning, Ian. So obviously we won the toss, and it was same old. 48 for 4. Alex Lees. Does anybody know? Does anyone know what he has in common with Len Hutton?
Is it 2 single-figure score or something?
Brandon, you've hit the nail on the head. Alex Lees and Len Hutton both scored single-figure scores in their first Test match. I'm not saying, Ian, that Alex Lees is going to be anywhere near to Len Hutton, but there you go. No, but yeah, struggling well with 48 for 4, and it wasn't looking good once again.
No, it wasn't. And, this sort of post-Ashes rebuild, Red Bull reset, whatever you want to call it, it's going to be tough on Alex Lees. It's going to be a lot of pressure. It's a bit of a poison chalice. They're trying different people. Good to see, obviously, Crawley get some runs in the second dig. So, yeah, it was a tough one. Obviously, Joe Root is probably, even at 4, he's probably got his pads on whilst the openers are padding up as well. It was shocking. So to come back from that terrible start, I thought that was pretty positive stuff. And as Brandon says, Bairstow got 140, but this is what we want, and the centuries have come from 3 different players as well, which again is a positive thing. And there's people chipping in. Nice cameo in the second innings from Lawrence as well, giving it a bit of a biff. But no, it didn't look too good, did it? That first morning. It looked like it was possibly a poor decision, but I think Joe was wanting to bat first. We didn't have to bat fourth on what we thought might be a deteriorating wicket. In effect, it didn't really break up, like you say. This sort of watering is supposed to have magically sealed it. I don't know, but
it was interesting, Brandon. You got if you take the new ball for both teams, they got a lot more swing than we did, didn't they?
Yeah, I think that Roach is levels above anything, and I was impressed with their young Seals bowler in the first innings. That nutty bowl to Ben Stokes to get him to chop on was a hell of a delivery. I think the difference is, I think at the start of the game, the pitch was probably much better to bowl on than other points in the game, because I think the wind was a constant factor in drying the pitch out, wasn't it? They said, because it was blowing a gale, it seemed straight for 5 days. It just dried the pitch out, and there wasn't anything in it. You couldn't get swing after 2 overs, I think. But credit where it's due to England. When it did stop doing things, we were the better team in sort of like the second half of their first innings and the second innings that we bowled in terms of just bowling a good line and length and making them work for their runs. Because I think the West Indies bowled a lot of 4 balls, as you'd call them. You know, to Crawley, they were bowling it short at his hip. If you bowl it short at Crawley's hip, he's going to pull you. They're bowling at a 5th stump, back of a length, which Root is just going to guide down the 3rd man for 4. I think that Wokes and Overton done a good job of just bowling good lines and lengths.
They didn't, though. They didn't.
They didn't after the
had 10 boundaries in the first 12 and a half overs.
That's why I said the second half of their first innings, Rich, but thank you for making that point.
He's defending Chris Wokes again, Ian. He won't have a bad word said. He is the leader, Matt Brandon, of the Chris Wokes fan club.
It's a tough. Chris Wokes is a good test all rounder. He's not world class, far from it. But he's better, another one who's better in English conditions, isn't he? But I've written down here, Wokes and Overton not opening bowlers, not by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not sure how we've got to this process that's got to the decision that Mark Overton, who's played 7 Test matches over the last however many years, is now suddenly our first choice bowler. Are we allowed to talk about the 2 that are home? We're not. They're like swear words at the moment in the English press, aren't they? The 2 that have been left back playing golf or with their feet up or whatever. But I think it was Steve Armisen said on the BT coverage though that they're probably giggling to themselves at the moment. That's probably one to miss, was that pitch. I like Chris Wokes. I think he runs in. He's honest as the day is long, but he struggles away from home. You only have to look at the comparative averages. I think he averages something like 23, 24 in England. Away from home, it's probably near a double that, which is concerning if he's our premium strike bowler, especially with Mark Wood now going to miss the second test, it looks like, and Ollie Robinson, who's, for me, not fit enough to be a test match bowler despite his clear ability.
I've said that many a time on here, haven't I, Rob, about Ollie Robinson. I think he's going to be fit. They said, I was listening to Agnew on the podcast. He was doing some training, I think, after play. The first couple of days, they said he didn't really look at it. But by the time the 5th day, he was looking quite good. And I think he'll probably come straight back into the team. But who at the expense of? Because obviously Mark Wood with his elbow doesn't sound good, does it? Because he had an injection before the first test in it. And you've only got to look at Jofra Archer, with his elbow problem. And Wood's key. Well, yeah, he's out there. He is out there. They said, I think he's out there in Ollie Stone. But Mark Wood's key to this lineup, Rob, because without him, look, I know Saki Mahmood is going to come into the. Well, I'll talk to Ian about him in a minute. But without Wood's pace, we're just
toothless.
We are probably toothless. We see Robinson in the Ashes. Like, look at his speed. That'll be interesting if he plays. To see the first spell, yeah, we know what he can do. But then second, third, fourth, see what he
6 overs out of him. I think good 6 overs out of him for the Test match.
I personally think he's the best. He's the next cab off the rank. He is our 3rd best seamer after the 2 who aren't there, obviously. But he's just so injury prone. He's not fit, but he's the best of what we've got at the moment. I mean, Mahmood Saki might come in. I've not seen too much of him. He's pacey, but what will he be like in the 3rd, 4th spell, day 4, day 5? For me, I'd want to get in another spinner. I think the way it is over there, I think get Parkinson in, playing with Leach. Leach will hold an end up, let Parkinson rip it, and maybe go down a slightly different tactical route. You've got Stokes bowling 40 odd overs, so there's one of your seamers. So yeah, I just think the seamers without Wood was awesome. Every spell looked sharp, looked busy, but the other 2 just absolute. No way good enough out there. We've already touched on it. Matt said about, the average differences in the UK and abroad. Absolutely. But
here we go. 81 overs, 16 maidens, 3 for 218. That was Chris Wokes and Mark Overton combined.
Yeah. So, yeah, Robinson will get a gig, won't he? Because he is class. But...
Just a quick thing, Matt. It's Craig Overton, not Mark.
Did I say Mark? Sorry, Craig Overton. Where have I got Mark Overton from? That's not even a footballer. He's not even a footballer called Mark Overton.
Mark Overmars.
Mark Overmars. There we go. Good save.
Well just about Saki Mahmood. You're the big Lancasterian on here, Ian. What would he bring to the table if he gets picked?
Well, he's got a yard. You know, I think he's certainly quicker than Wokes and Overton. He obviously didn't have such a great time in the white ball games against the West Indies, but he's like Lees. He's pretty new to it, so I think we've got to cut these new players some slack. I think we do need to have a look at him. There's no point leaving Broad and Anson at home and then taking seam bowlers with us and not using them, and particularly after the first test, as Rob has said there, I think it needs a change. I'd like to see Fisher, and I'd like to see Mahmood bowling with Stokes as your third seamer. The way that Jack Leach bowled with his control. I've got quite a few comments to make about Leach actually, but he bowled better than we thought. But I think, as a wicket taking option, you've got to get Parkinson. But I think Mahmood, he is experienced. I don't think he'll have a problem with the 5 days. He is quite an athlete. Don't expect too much from him with the bat, which is obviously where Wokes that goes in his favour. The fact that he can more than hold a bat, but he's got to be given a chance. I think he's got a yard, and if he bowls the right lines, I think he'll do okay.
Yeah, I don't want to bin Overton off, but I don't really see. I know I did say he's going to be the leading wicket taker. I know you did say as well, Brandon, didn't you?
I said back in January when we sort of said who we would get on the plane to the West Indies, and even if you look at Jason Holder, the fact that I suppose you could say that Overton in the first innings that we bowled looked at some points the most dangerous. It is genuinely taller bowlers that do better in West Indies. I think Ishant Sharma took the most wickets in the Test series that India and West Indies played over there last time. And considering Ishant Sharma is by far not the best bowler who's bowled in that series, it goes to show the sort of pitches you get over there. I think you do rely more on bounce rather than swing. You're looking at more so the up and down movement rather than side to side. I think that Overton is the right player to pick the right sort of,
Is he an opening bowler though? Really?
I think we don't really have, especially with Robinson injured, we don't have, for me, open bowlers in the team. Chris Wokes, I'm a big fan of Chris Wokes. It's not known. I still think that he has something that he can offer. Maybe not this series, but he's not going to get any better at playing abroad if he doesn't get overs to be bowled abroad. Not many seamers after day 2 looked effective, including Chris Wokes, including everyone else who bowled.
I think you have to be fair to the bowlers on this wicket, don't you, really, Rob? It had nothing in it. And it was a really, really hard job for him. And you'd like to probably, if you were Craig Overton or Chris Wokes, you'd probably be thinking, well, I hope I play on a deck in this series. It's got a little bit in it because they're bending their back. They're getting nothing out of the pitch. And it's bloody hard work for them, isn't it, really?
Yeah, absolutely. But I guess just as a Test cricket fan, it was good to see a game go to the last session on the 5th day. The pitch was a bit too far. But tough gig. But one thing, silly little quirks that I love in the game was just seeing Ben Folkes stood up to the stumps, to the seamers. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Just an absolute show of class from Ben Folkes. He's got a tough gig replacing my former favourite player, Joss, but he was awesome. It was great to see him stood up to the stumps, bossing it up there, doing that job.
Didn't he, Rob? Got some runs in the first innings. Got some runs in the first innings as well.
Yeah, looked really good. He was actually going along about a run of ball to start with when he was batting with Bairstow for a period, and then he looked good. And also runs between the wickets. Well, he's good behind the stumps, and he's got the best teeth in cricket as well, hasn't he? So did well. Good.
So I think the batting order, Matt. I think it will probably stay the same for Barbados, wouldn't it? I would have thought it would stay the same for the remaining 2 tests, unless there's injuries.
Yeah, I mean, I've written down what my 11 would be for Barbados. I've not changed any of the top 8. I'll be honest. So you can't write Alex Lees off after 1 test. To be fair, he got 2 fairly good deliveries as well. the one he got first innings swung a mile, whether it's, you know, the ball or it's the wind or whatever, but he's got a good one. And he's got a decent one second up as well. You can't write him off. How many openers have we had since the Ashes in 2019? It's ridiculous the amount that we've tried. We've had Jason Roy, Dom Sibley, Burns, Habib, Crawley. Then he's gone down and batted at 3. Then he's open. We had Joe Denley in 2019 as well. We've got to give these players chances, and we've got to give them a run together as well to try and build up a partnership. We can't keep chopping and changing every 2 Test matches or every 3 Test matches. So for me, Lee stays in. Crawley got big runs. Second innings was very good. I think West Indies probably made it a little bit easy for him after he'd got through that tough early period. He always worries me. He always looks like early in his innings, and I'm a big fan, obviously, because he's a Kent boy as well, but he always looks like he's going to fall over one early on in his innings or play round one. But once his guard helped him second innings where he was taking that off-stump guard, which meant that when anything that was swinging into his pads, he was able to clip through mid-wicket. And like Brandon said, anything that was short, he flicked it off his hip or pulled it away. So he definitely stays in. Root got a ton, he stays in. I thought Lawrence was brilliant second innings to try and force the game along and increase the pace. Was a very, very selfless innings. Bairstow and Stokes, you're not dropping them. Ben Stokes is Ben Stokes. And Johnny Bairstow, 2 tons in 3 Test matches. Folkes, I thought, was immaculate behind the stumps as well as a good 40-odd in the first up. And Chris Woakes, I think, has probably got money in the bank over his career. So I'd keep in as well, but I certainly wouldn't have him opening the bowling. After that, I think it might. There is a case to make maybe 1 or 2 changes, I think, but we'll get onto that later on in the show. But no, I can't see the batting lineup changing because we scored 660 runs in a Test match, which is miles more than we've done over the last 6 months to a year
combined.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, Ian, where was Dan Lawrence's bowling? Where they needed to get Bonner out. They didn't bowl him until 3 overs from the end of play, did they? There he was. What a great action that he's got. What's all arms and legs? The shirt's hanging out. The belly's showing when he's... Fantastic.
He's got a repeatable action, just not repeatable by anybody other than Dan Lawrence. It's quirky. You know, as a batsman, that kind of thing could possibly catch your eye and put you off. I think you make a very good point. And you know, the point I was referring to earlier with Jack Leach is that maybe we could have been a little bit more experimental in trying to get these wickets. I think Jack Leach has bowled really well. He contained in the first innings. He got wickets in the second, but it's almost like Panesar. Yes, he's found a really good area to bowl, hitting good lengths. But it's the same. It's the same. I want to see a little bit more craft, a little bit more art. Bowl one from 23 yards. Come wide of the crease. Bowl one without your front arm going up. Just do something. I think he needs to. I don't know. Going back a bit, I suppose Bisham Bedi was somebody who spinner for India in the sort of 60s to late 70s. I think he got 250 wickets or whatever it was. You know, he would, you know, I'm going back a while, I realise that, gents, but he would do all sorts of things. You know, he would try something. If something wasn't happening or somebody was blocking him out, because he used to back in the day, he would try something, to try all sorts of different things, quite inventive. But Jack Leach, I think, was a little bit samey for me. I think he's bowled well, don't get me wrong. I mean, in Australia, he'd not had a lot of bowling up to Australia. The Australians savaged him. They went after him.
They knew what they were doing. That was a pre-play.
He couldn't get into his rhythm or any control. I think he's found some rhythm and control, and I think he's sticking to it. He hasn't done anything wrong, but I think he could be a little bit more experimental. And I think that's possibly down to the captaincy as well.
Yeah, we touched on it before, haven't we, really, with the captaincy with him, with Joe Root not really believing in it. He went, nearly 2 years he didn't get picked. He'll probably do his confidence a little bit. He got 5 for 126 off 73.3 overs in the game. But I do agree with you. Is he going to bowl a top side out on a 5th day?
What I will say is, as you've just touched on there, he's not going to not be samey with the lacking of confidence he had before this game. I think this game was about finding his rhythm, bowling dot balls, getting the odd wicket. I think that once he's bedded into the team maybe a little bit more, gains that confidence, that's when he can start to show some variety, I suppose, in his bowling and try these things to get wickets. If you're coming into a game and all you've had is people absolutely battering you in Australia, and then you've had the media on top of you for God knows how long, I think the last thing he was going to do was run in and bowl one from 24 yards out. But I agree with you that that's going to have to come if he wants to cement his place in this team, is he is going to have to start being more of a wicket taker. But I think that this was important in him gaining confidence and feeling that he is capable of being an international spinner.
Yeah, well, he's obviously going to play the next 2 tests, Rob. But it's like we touched on last week. Parkinson's been picked, but is he just going to be carrying the drinks? You know, they've picked these new young players. How are they really going to find out? Because we said last week, didn't we? And we didn't know if they'd pick a different bowling lineup. But it looks as though Leach will play the 3 tests. Now, Matt Parkinson's gone out there. Is he just going to be bowling in the nets? Because there's obviously no games in between. So, and then he goes back to Lancashire. And then next summer, when we're over here, Jack Leach will get picked. So what happens?
Or no spinner will get picked.
Well, yeah, possibly. Yeah. It just depends on the wickets, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is tough. And you're right. It is completely down to the wickets. And you hope you'd hope that they'd prepare something a bit more sporting. But the thing is, if you flip it and look at the West Indies, their spinner, Permaul, was awful. Yeah. And if he's the best they've got, then they aren't going to produce anything that spins. I mean, my favourite cricketer in the world, Rakeem Cornwall, might get a gig for them. They might bring him back in. What a player. So they might bring him back in, but he's just an off spinner. You know, I can't see it that there'll be too much spin there, because it just doesn't suit the West Indies, and they're at home, and that's what you do, isn't it? You look after yourself. So I'd love to see him play. I love wrist spin. You know, I like Leach's craft, turning the ball away from the bat. It's right-handers, obviously. It's what you need. Will Parkinson get a gig? I don't know. Anyone here's guess is as good as anyone else's. Hope so. Would love to see it.
Yeah. Getting back to Lawrence there, I thought he batted really well. Like you say, I thought he looked quite good in the first innings there, Brandon. I know he only got 20, but then, like you said, Rob, he was really selfless, wasn't he? In yesterday morning, what was it, 37 or 36 balls? Because he knows he's only just come in the team. He's obviously his place isn't secure, but he had the confidence, which I like. He just went out there and he got us ahead of the game, and he probably bought us a little bit of extra time to sort of declare a little bit earlier, Brandon.
Yeah, he's probably been itching to get his chance, hasn't he? The same, I suppose, with every spinner outside of Jack Leach, is they're probably waiting for their chance as well. But he's at a good age as well, isn't he, Dan Lawrence? If he comes good, you've got so many years of run scoring out of him, hopefully. But he does offer something with the ball that we saw as well, and obviously that we touched on. The Essex Murley doesn't get that name for nothing. But I know that Owen has talked about him a lot in previous pods. But he does offer you. I mean, going into the last day when we were trying to set up a declaration, I mean, I don't think you could pick a better sort of top order in terms of ODI pedigree as well to create the declaration. And he was really the only one that came off in doing it, wasn't he? He was the only one who really got a notable score trying to accelerate the scoreboard. But he is unorthodox. I think every batsman that seems to come into the sort of England batting system at the moment has their own quirks about it. But if it works for them, it works for them. But yeah, hopefully this is, again, a start for him to push on. I don't really remember him doing much wrong the previous time I think he was in the Test series away at India. And I think he was one of the better players. I think I remember him getting some stick when he was down in Sri Lanka as well. The Sri Lankan wicketkeeper was asking him for some batting tips, if I remember. Yeah, he was asking. I think he asked Root for a bat, but he was asking Lawrence for some lessons on how to bat against spin, wasn't it? But,
that was it.
Yeah, but I really like Dan Lawrence. I think he's got a chance if he carries on going. Yeah,
I agree with you, Brandon. I think he's got a really good character about himself, but the currency is runs, and hopefully this next test in Barbados, he can get a score, because he gets a 20 and then gets out in the first innings, nicking off 37. he needs to get that ton, sooner or later to bide himself a little bit of time as well, Matt, in the team, because obviously Ollie Pope had his chance in Australia. He's in the squad now. He's the reserve batsman, but he's not going to play. So Dan Lawrence, like we said last week, he's really got to grab this opportunity when it comes along.
Yeah, 100%. And, he scored 57 runs in a test match. Well, to be fair, it's about an England average, isn't it, these days? All jokes aside. No, he's like Brandon said, he's not cemented his place in the side, and he needs a big one, doesn't he? Are there too many people breathing down his neck? I'm not so sure. I'm not a massive fan of Ollie Pope, I won't lie. I think there's a lot of potential there, but he reminds me very much like Ian Bell in that 2005 Ashes, a little bit like rabbit in the headlights. He seems very rushed at the crease all the time, and he's so desperate to play a good shot and get runs that he just looks like he's trying too hard all the time. And he's still at a decent age, so that might improve with time. But at the moment, Ollie Pope, I don't think it's an option. So I'd be more than happy with persisting with Lawrence for certainly the final 2 tests of this series. I think he's got more about him, and we've suddenly realised that he could actually be used as an additional spinner, which then could free up, playing another pace bowler or another batsman if the need arises. Because I know we're talking about Parkinson and Mahmood may be coming in for the second test match, but we've got Jack Leach, will play, I'd imagine. Joe Root, not rubbish as a spinner. He's a decent enough option if we need to get through a few overs. Dan Lawrence, like we've all said, his action is odd, and it can unsettle batsmen. It managed to get out a bloke after 3 deliveries who'd been there who'd batted for about 2.5 weeks. So, yeah, I like Dan Lawrence. Like I say, he was very selfless in that second innings, which was a big thing for me. He could have just gone out there and just blocked and played it nice and easy and picked up, 25 off of 70 deliveries not out or whatever and played for himself. But he didn't. He decided, right, I'm in a team. It's a team game. I'm going to try and rush this along, get us into a position where we can try and force a result, albeit we knew it was a long shot because it was like bowling on a car park, wasn't it? So
I want to touch on, we were chatting off air before Rob come on. So I'll ask you, Rob, what did you think to Joe Root's Alice band?
It's got to be done, mate. I go with the product, slick it back. But he could always wear a cap, I suppose, couldn't he? But no.
As an England captain, Ian, ever wore an Alice band before Joe Root?
I believe Solen Hutton wore one. No, well, it's, as I say, I think it's a throwback to lockdown when people were letting the locks flow. Obviously, it hasn't done Mr. Burns any good, but it seems to be working for Joe. He got a ton. He converted that 50 to a ton, so he can wear it as much as he wants for me.
He looked a bit more happier as well, I thought, Root. I thought he captained quite well in this test match.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he's the only gig in town, isn't he? Really?
Yeah, he is.
I think stepping up to 3 again. I think there's no other. There's very few options, should I say? No, he was very positive, and I was reading an interview with Paul Collingwood to say that he is very sort of chipper, which is great because they're looking obviously forward to the summer, obviously focusing on this West Indies tour. But I think they've tried to put us, the Ashes out of the minds and get on with the job in hand. And he's been pretty positive about that. I think some of his captaincy's been quite positive, like the declaration. Again, he was a little bit hamstrung with the bowling because obviously Wood was a big part of his armoury there, and off he went. So that meant that Stokes, who was only going to bowl a dozen overs, had to bowl 40 up.
The fourth most overs, Ian, that he's bowled in a test match, Ben Stokes, and they said they were going to look after him. He's just coming back from a side strain.
I think that struck me though as more so. I think Stokes is a sort of player when he sees Wood go off. I reckon he's the sort of person who'd go up to Root and go, "Give me a spell, throw me the ball. I'll do. I'll put in a shift." Because I think that Root would if it's down to Root, in my mind, I think that he would have bowled less. But like, even you saw him, was it on the third afternoon? Like, he was complaining he was going to go off because he had a bad foot.
Yeah.
And then you turn around, you get a drink, and then suddenly he's coming on to bowl another spell. And I can't see that being Joe Root. As I said, I think Stokes is someone who likes to be involved in the game, and I can't see these 40 overs being purely down to the captain in this situation.
But I do think they need to look after him because, like we've seen before, when he's out the team, he's a three-dimensional player, isn't he? Bats, bowls, fields, and he leaves a massive hole, Rob, in that team if Ben Stokes is out.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you look at I think he's about 4th or 5th in the world ratings for the all-rounders. I think Wokes does sneak in around 9, but it's just absolute daylight between them, isn't it? You know, as you said, 3 aspects. You know, he's batting, bowling, and fielding. There doesn't seem to be another cab off the rank too soon. He's 31 this summer, I think. So hopefully we get a few more years out of him. And he's just absolute heart on the sleeve, isn't he? You know, will just keep running in, you know, go through the pain barrier. And that relates really well to the fans, doesn't it? We like to see that. So hopefully we can wrap him up in cotton wool, although he won't want to be in it, but hopefully get as much more cricket out of him as we can for in the future.
Right. So let's get on to some player ratings. We'll start with the newbie, the debutant at the bottom there, Matt. Go through your scores and why. If there's a low one, why? There shouldn't be as many low ones, I wouldn't have thought. Maybe Chris.
No, I think I've got 2. Alex Lee's 5. Unfortunately, he's an opening batsman. He scored 10 runs, so pretty self-explanatory. But again, like I said earlier, I'm not going to write him off. I think he deserves another chance in the second Test match. So 5 for him. Zach Crawley 8. I thought he's slightly unlucky first innings. The lad, Josh De Silva takes an absolute worldie left-handed, doesn't he? The one that he's got an inside edge on.
Do you think sometimes, Matt, he's a little bit too airy-fairy opening the bat, and he needs to be a little bit because that was like, what was it, 4th or 5th over, Ian?
Yeah, I backed Crawley to be top run scorer on the last show, so and he's somebody as a young player. I was obviously keen follower of the county game and was keen to get him in because I think he's got the right temperament for Test cricket. But it was a fabulous catch. But yeah, he can look a little bit nervous early doors, and sometimes go hard at the ball a little bit as well, which brings the slips into play. But yeah, it was a relief for him to get runs, to get a score. Massive relief.
Go on, Matt.
Yeah, so 8 for Crawley. Root 8 as well. I thought he was immaculate. He didn't. I don't remember him offering up a chance second innings for that 100. Dan Lawrence, I've given 7. Probably wanted a few more runs out of him, but purely for getting the lad out who'd been there for 2 weeks, like I said earlier, I thought that was a nice little bonus for him as well. Ben Stokes 7.5. I can see both sides of the argument about. I know Steve Armisen was quite vocal about it late on day 5, saying that Joe Root shouldn't be letting him bowl when we still needed 6 wickets with about 8 overs left. We needed a miracle. I know Ben Stokes will run in all day and think that he can take them wickets, but especially with injury problems to Wood and Robinson as well, I thought it was a little bit daft from Joe Root. He's the captain at the end of the day. I know Brandon said it's probably more that Ben Stokes wants to do it, but Joe Root's the captain for a reason. He should be saying, no, you're not having the ball. So 7.5 for Ben Stokes, 8.5 for Johnny Bairstow. I thought he was absolutely superb first innings. He came in, paced his innings really well, defended really well when he came in and we were struggling and 4 down. I thought he went through the gears really well when he got himself in. So I'd probably have him as probably my England man of the match. Ben Folkes, a 7, thought was really good. Solid behind the stumps, like you say, he was clever. I stood up to Chris Wokes in the second innings to try and make some stuff happen. It didn't allow the West Indies to bat out of their crease. Chris Wokes, a 6. He got decent runs first innings, but that's not his job, is it? It's like having a striker who don't score goals. He didn't take wickets. I thought he was appalling first innings. I thought his line and his lengths were completely wrong. But again, I'm not going to write him off. He's been a solid
Brandon,
option.
You're right. Are you all right?
It's fine. Give me a minute.
Craig Overton and Mark Overton, I thought both were poor. So I'll give them a 5. I don't get it. Again, I've said it already earlier on in the show. I don't understand the thought process to leave Stuart Broad out, to leave Jimmy Anderson out, 1,100 test wickets between them, both still doing it as well. It's not like they've not been taking wickets for 2 or 3 years. And then suddenly this lad comes back in and he's only played a handful of test matches as an opening bowler. I didn't get it. I didn't think he offered much. Got a duck first innings. Mark Wood was decent in the little that we saw of him, so I've given him a 6. He looked like he was going to take wickets. He's the only one that's got genuine pace. Jack Leach, I thought was better than a couple of others have said. I get what Ian's saying. He needs to develop. He's an off spinner. He's not going to have loads of options like a Shane Warne, God rest his soul, and flippers and googlies and all that type of thing. But like Brandon said, I think he was sort of playing himself back into some sort of rhythm. First innings, he held up an end really well. I thought second innings, he came more of a threat until the same partnership, wasn't it, that held us up again. And but yeah, 3 wickets and in the second innings, 2 in the first. Probably could have had 3 or 4 more as well. He's been very unlucky with 3 on review that have hit the stumps, but it has had to stay with the umpire on DRS. He could have ended up with 6, 7 or 8 in the match. So I gave Jack Leach a 7.5. I thought he was very good on a track that was offering not a lot at all.
Brandon, we'll come to you. Are you all right now?
Yeah, I've had a moment. It's fine.
Yeah, all right.
Lees, I just want to echo what Matt said there. I've given him a low rating, but that's because he hasn't got runs in the test match. This isn't going to happen overnight, although we would have loved it to. He gets a 3 from me because he also what I look at here is if you don't score runs, has he taken a catch, anything like that I might be able to bump him up 1 or 2, but he didn't. But no blame to him. Kemal Roach with the new ball on the first day was brilliant. So 3 for me for Lees. Crawley an 8. I like that he went about his business a bit slower to get this ton than what we saw him sort of when he scored runs in Australia. He done it a bit more with a bit more tempo, a bit more freely, but he dug in to get a score, and he needed to. Joe Root, I've given an 8 as well, and he done what he always does. He accumulates. You don't notice that he's really batting Joe Root. Every time I looked up, I thought that Zach Crawley was facing, but he just accumulates runs without noticing, doesn't he? So he was brilliant, giving him an 8. Lawrence a 6. I also just liked that when it cut to him, whether England had made a review or whatnot, he was always in the huddles talking, saying, I think the heights are right, this or that. Whether he was right or wrong about the review is different. He looks like he's part of the team already, Dan Lawrence, which I like. I like the way.
You can say when Stuart Broad was playing, he was in the huddle for
the
review.
Everything
was out.
He's been about since I was born, though, old Stewie, hasn't he? So, but a 6 for Lawrence, a 7 for Stokes. I thought to look dangerous on a pitch like that, which Stokes did, is brilliant. And I thought he batted. His partnership with Bairstow in our first innings was vital, and us getting a score as well. So I've given him a 7. I've given Bairstow a 9, as I sort of touched on earlier. Without Bairstow's runs in that first innings, we would have been up against it. We really would have. Folks, I've given a 7. I can't remember him doing anything wrong with the gloves, and once again he helped us get a score in the first innings when we were desperate to. I've given Wokes and Overton 5s. Both of them were awful with the new ball in their first innings. I think that both of them were much more disciplined after their first and second spells on that first innings.
Touching on, just going back to Chris Wokes there, do you think now he's not got the safety blanket that he'd always have with either a Broad or Anderson, both of them playing or one of them? So do you think that it psychologically, Brandon, the pressure, he's got to take that new ball. He knows that they're being scrutinised, every little thing. Because Jimmy and Broadie are back at home watching. No one knows if they're going to be picked again.
Yeah.
Do you think that sort of the pressure got to him a little bit with that first spell?
I do, and I think that the way he bowled in his first spell, I think he went at 5s or whatever it was, and he had a maiden in there, so it was probably worse than what it actually looked in terms of his first spell. I think the commentators alluded to the fact that he was bowling as if he was expecting the ball to do more than what it was. So when you're bowling in the areas expecting it to swing this much and it doesn't swing that much, then it's always going to be somewhere it's not meant to be. So he sometimes bowled a bit wide or a bit short. But if that ball was swinging the amount that Kemar Roach was in their first innings with the new ball, it probably would have been a brilliant spell. I know that he bowled a spell. I can't remember what day it was. It was definitely, I think it was the back end of their first innings. And he bowled a spell with the old ball, and he was passing the inside edge.
Just touching on that ball, Ian, you said something to me about it's a Duke's ball we're using, but is it a different one that we use over here?
Yeah, it's not the same ball. I think, as we saw in the Test match, they were constantly checking if it would go through the gauge. Apparently, my understanding is it's a pretty poor naff ball, but
naff is the word.
I didn't use it because it's got more seam than the Kookaburra, but that's what they're using. But apparently, it's not what we would use here. It's not the Dukes that we use here.
Yeah. So Wokes and Open both get 5s. I think they both did, as I said, they both bowled better areas whilst the pitch was getting worse. So that's why they maybe didn't get the reward they would on a pitch that wasn't crap. Wood, I've given a 4, as Gov would say, the best ability is availability. When he was bowling, he did look sharp. He did look like he was up for it. But getting injured, it's not down to him. But he gets a 4 for me. And then Leach, I've given a 7. He's not my man of the match. He was the pick of the bowlers, as it sort of showing statistics. I think one of his overs as well in the first innings of theirs went for 12. So when you look at sort of the figures come the end of the innings, if you take 1 over and 12 runs out of that, it shows how controlled he was in terms of where he was putting it. And commentators always allude to the fact that sometimes it's the ball that doesn't spin that's your wicket-taking ball. And I think that early doors, he wasn't spinning it much. That's why maybe he didn't take as many wickets. But come that last day, the balls that were genuinely hitting the pads or getting the batsman out were the ones that were doing nothing. And I think that it goes to show that they were then playing for spin that they'd obviously seen. So Leach gets a 7, much improved, and hopefully he can use this as sort of a start, a base. But we all wanted to see Parkinson. We might not see Parkinson now, I suppose, but Leach knows that he's got someone chomping at the bit behind him, and he's probably is looking over his shoulder. Hopefully he uses that as motivation. But that's my...
I've got a question. Just going off on one a little bit to Ian. So that fantastic lunch menu out there. What is goat's water?
I generally don't know. I was gonna ask, but
does anyone in the comments know what goat's water is in the Caribbean? There's some lovely lobster on there.
Is it some sort of thin, sort of consommé type soup?
Matt's looking it up.
That would be my guess, I think.
That's some lovely lobster. I think it was the third day there. They had a little feature on BT.
They do that each lunch, didn't they? They went over.
Yeah,
he must be the happiest man in the world.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I don't think it's what I've Googled because it said it's a body of water in the Lake District, so I'm not sure it's that, but different goat's water, I'd imagine. West Indian, Caribbean cuisine.
There you go. Ben Hobbs in the chat says goat's water. He thinks it's a stew.
Right, yeah.
I reckon it's water the goats drink, to be fair. But...
Well,
yeah, right, it's a stew. It's a stew.
There you go. You learn something. Every day is a school day, isn't it, Rob? That's right. Ian, give me your ratings.
Alex Lee's 4.5. He's not scored any runs, but
wait a minute, here we go. Look, goat's water, the government.
Oh,
there you go.
If I had magnifying glasses, I might be able to read that. But I can see a lovely picture though, so that does look.
That does look like a stew there.
It does.
It looks more. Yeah. More soupish.
Also
kiddie
referred
stew.
to as
I don't like that.
No, I don't like
No, I don't like that. Change it, Gov. I don't like that.
It's prepared. Like I was just reading what it was.
No kiddie stew on here.
It's goat and breadfruit. Breadfruit, it says. Whatever that is.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, at least 4.5. As Matt says, now he's got the job. We've got to let the lad have a go.
What does he get? What would you say is a fair run in the team for him? He'll play the 3 tests in this series. Does he get the whole summer as well? Do you think?
That's a really good question, because I think what they'll probably do is that they will genuinely see how people are scoring runs in county cricket. I think that's the only thing that they can do. And I think also quite canny in a way is that we don't know who the new coach is going to be going forward. So, I think, yes, they're giving Alex Lees a go now. And I think they'll have a look at it at the beginning of the county championship season. If Lees is in form and Burns isn't, then Lees probably gets the nod. But
I think the first test is not till June, isn't it?
To give him this series and not use him, unless he sort of fails in both these next games. But it would still be harsh, because
you've got
to have a go.
You got 2 against New Zealand first up, haven't we, over here? And then there's the one against India, and then obviously the South Africans. I think
we're going to get Callie on the show for the Indian Test match.
Possibly, but Callie would only come on if India were winning, because he sort of goes. He goes.
Get him on beforehand. They probably will be, so he'll probably come on.
Right. So Lee's 4.5. Who else?
Yeah. Crawley 8. Really good knock in the second dig there. Root 7.5. He did shoulder arms in the first innings.
Have you seen Stuart Wallace's comment there, Ian, on the screen? Not sure if it's been mentioned before, but Liam Norwell is set to replace Wood. Just imagine selection meeting. Anderson, Broad, or Norwell. Yeah.
Well, I think we mentioned it on the show.
Callie's in the show. Hello, Callie.
We did mention that Liam Norwell was on standby.
Yeah, he said that last week.
And I
don't know a lot about him. What do you know about him?
I saw him bowl for Warwickshire against Lancashire. He did end up with wickets, actually. He was very consistent. He pushed it through at reasonable rate. He's not sort of F-rapid, but he pushes it through. I thought he looks a decent bowler. But I think there's several in the county game. But obviously, he's one that they've got their eye on, perhaps. But I think if you've got Jofra Archer, Anderson, Broad, Stone, Robinson, Wood, I would think that he's very, very much a sort of, 12th choice or whatever. But every credit to the lad. And if he does come in, I think he'll come in, and he will. If you do bring him over, I think he will be on standby or carrying drinks. I don't think he'll be playing.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Ollie Stone. I wouldn't be surprised to see Ollie Stone. As much as I wouldn't want to, because he's a Norwich fan. I wouldn't be surprised, because I think from everything I've seen, he's been bowling a lot, like in between sessions, and
he
looks like he's
in
the
podcast on Test Match Special, and they said he's bowling a lot in between like the sessions, but he's nowhere near cricket fit. He's not going to come into a Test match.
Neither is Ollie Robinson, though.
But he's been playing through the winter, and he's not had a stress fracture his back, so highly unlikely. I like Ollie Stone, I really do, and I hope that he can get back to Warwickshire and get some wickets early season, and then put himself in the frame later in the summer. Hopefully, he just needs to stay fit. Anyway, get back to your team.
Lawrence a 7. A nice test for him. Bit of a cameo with the bat. I think as colleagues on the call have said, very positive, playing positive cricket, not thinking about his place or trying to retain his place in the side. He plays it as he sees it. Interesting action with the ball. I think they could have tossed the ball around a little bit more. I mean, you see Australia sometimes they'll use 9 bowlers trying all sorts of different things.
Would you be telling him to tuck his shirt in when he's bowling?
Well, he possibly needs a longer shirt. you know. But yeah, perhaps a larger shirt. But maybe he's got a sponsorship with the underwear manufacturer, and it's part of the contract. You know, difficult to tell. Yeah, so Stokes 7. It's an interesting one. He bowled all those overs. Somebody's either fit or they're not, and you can't test the fitness without. If he bowled 12 overs or 18 overs, would that really been a test of his fitness? They must have known and they must have thought that he was fit to give him all those overs. Yes, he's one of those. He could have a broken leg and he'd still be hobbling in, you know. But I've got to
see how he pulls up in the next test, Ian. You know, he's bowled over 40 overs in this test, and there's not much of a gap, is there? Because that's Wednesday, the next test starts. So we have to see how he goes. Hopefully, we'll win the toss and we can bat.
I think Wood's injury has accommodated that increase in overs. Same for Leach in a way. Best 08 was a great knock. Bearing in mind he was out of the pitch before the Ashes, he was out of the picture. He was still kind of on the periphery in the Ashes, and then they brought him back and he got that ton. So it's great for him. He's a confidence player, and he batted really well. Folks have given 7.5. Yeah, absolutely. Matt's absolutely right. If the keeper stood up, it's keeping the batsman honest. It's keeping the batsman in the crease. So if Wokes is going to swing it, he's got more chance to do something there. But nice nudge in the first innings and good work with the gloves. I think he might have shelled one, but you know, keepers do, don't they? Wokes, I've given a 6. You know, he's not playing in conditions that suit him, as guys have said on the call. Decent with the bat. I think it's a real big ask for all these bowlers to not be around, and for Chris Wokes to be given the ball open up when it's not really his thing. I think Brandon's getting upset there, but I do apologise. But I've given him a 6 because I think, and I've given him 5.5 to Overton. What we can't knock is the effort and the endeavour of those guys, especially with Wood off the field. Yeah, they didn't really do it. The wicket was part of that. I think the way that the West Indies themselves, on something of a renaissance, not back to the days of Clive Lloyd and that period, but you know, they've got guys that rather than just go out and try and slap every ball 2020 style, you know, T20 bangers, they've actually got lads who are trying to apply themselves and block it and block it and block it. You've got to be a cannier bowler. You've got to have more tricks in your armory if you want to get those guys out, or a bit of raw pace, or a bit of actual turn. So I think they worked hard. Wood, I've not scored him. He got injured. I feel sorry for the lad. And Leach, I gave 2.5. No, I didn't. I gave 7.5 for Jack Leach because credit where credit is due. He did bowl well. He didn't have a great Ashes. He's a containing bowler, and that's exactly what he did. And he chipped him with a few wickets as well. So credit where it's due. I've given Leach 7.5.
Right, question there for you, Matt, from Stuart Wallace. How come we seem to have the most fast bowlers out injured most of the time, yet Australia seem to keep Hazelwood, Cummins and Stark ticking over most of the time?
Did Hazelwood miss like
he
4
did.
test matches in the Ashes?
He played in the first one, didn't he? Then he was out, and then Boland come in, I think. And
yeah, which I'm not sure that was a good thing, was it? I don't know. You'd have to. It's not. I can't answer that. You need to ask the England medical team, I suppose.
We do play more Test cricket, though, don't we? Than
we do play a lot more Test matches than most of the nations. Yeah, I get that, but I don't know. Australian mentality, perhaps. That's a tricky one. I'm not really sure. I'm not qualified. I'm not a doctor.
Because of COVID, I didn't think, Brandon, they'd played some. They hadn't played much during COVID, had they?
No, and I think, although the comment is obviously asking in general, we are looking at the injuries England have now and thinking, how come we've got lots of injuries now? when you can only look at Australia. I think they've played like 2 test series, and the fact that one of them have got injured in them. So I think that you are looking at a bit of like, what have you done for me lately? And England have picked up some injuries, but it's because we've been playing cricket the whole time, haven't we? And if you look at it, Broad and Anderson aren't at home because they're injured. Robinson has come in, is clearly not fit enough, and Wood's picked up an injury, which you will do when you bowl 95 miles per hour. So,
cheers, Kelly.
Kelly's giving you some love in the chat there. Right, Rob. On to yours.
Yes. Okay, I think, to be honest, I think most bits have been covered, and I've done a lot of nodding in the last 20 minutes or so, agreeing with people with some numbers. Just Alex Lees, I've probably gone lower than everyone else. He managed to hoist us up to the mighty heights of 24 for none in the second innings, but scored 4 and 6, an average of 5, so I've given him 2. Crawley, obviously classy ton, and he's a good slipper, took a good catch. I'll give him an 8. Root, good 100, and captain pretty well for Joe. I don't rate him as a captain particularly, but I think he did a relatively good job. So Root, he got an 8. Lawrence, yeah, selfless is probably the word for him. Really good around the boys. He got two scores, crucial wicket. And like we said, the second innings knock, I give him a 7. Stokes, he got through 41 overs, scored 49 runs. He's just a Lionheart, isn't he? I give him a 7.5. Most of that for effort. Bairstow was class. I'm a bit of a convert. I've never been a fan of Johnny's. I think he's quite a rare unit, quite a random character after bumping into him once at the Oval a few years ago. He's an interesting chap, but he...
In what respect is he an interesting chap?
I don't know. He just he's very intense. I think he's really intense.
He just come across as quite spiky. I'd call him spiky.
Yeah, intense, but yeah, I completely agree. Decent 100 though. Fair play to him. The only reason I give him a 9.5. The only reason he didn't get a 10 is because his strike rate was under 100 in the second innings when he needed to just tee off. But otherwise, 9.5 for me for Bairstow. Folks, good 42. 3 catches, a run out, standing up that we mentioned before. We love that. 7 buys, though, which he won't be too keen on, but I'll give him a 7.5. Wokes got a few runs, bowled totally ineffectively. I'll give him 4. Overton, again, similar, woefully out of his depth, in my opinion. Couple of wickets, but rubbish. 3. Wood, 17 quick overs from Wood. Give him a 4. Ian, I did like your I'm not going to score him angle. That was a good touch. I think if he'd have bowled quickly in 2 innings for me, he'd have got an 8. So 4 for bowling in 1 innings. And Leach, 73 overs he got through, which is nearly a whole day's play, bowled by Jack. 6 wickets, well under 2s. And he also had the best strike rate with a bat of 200. So I'll give him an 8.
Well,
Mark Leach did bowl well.
I'll quickly run through mine. I've gone Lee's 3, Zach Crawley 8, Root 8, Dan Lawrence 7, Stokes 7. Bairstow gets a 9 because he's done the hard yards. You know, I know Crawley and Root in the second dig both got 100s, but he's the one who really got us out of we were in the brown stuff, weren't we? And if Johnny had gone early there, we could have been 150 all out. So Johnny gets a 9, Ben Folkes 7. Wokes and Overton, I'm sorry, Brandon, but both get a 4. Can't give them any more than that. You're right.
I don't know. Can't take this.
Mark Wood gets a 6, and Jack Leach. I'm going to give Jack Leach an 8.
I don't know about you, but the top half of that, I thought you were doing the old. Give me the answers and I'll change one to make it look like I'm not copying. But I don't understand how someone can play a day and a half of cricket and they get 6 personally. But it's fine. It's your show, Rich.
Come on! Don't be like that. There's no need to be like that. We're not picking. Do you think we're picking on you tonight with Chris Wokes?
Look, this Wokes slander has got to stop. It really has. As I said. I don't know whether it's before the show or after now because I'm just lost with all this woke slander that I've had to face. But at the same point of James Anderson's career abroad, he was averaging 48. So let's give Woke some overs to perfect his craft abroad, and we'll revisit it in a couple of years.
He's telling us in 5 years' time.
I'm not saying he's going to be James Anderson. I'm saying let's give him a chance.
He's not getting any younger though, Brandon, is he?
But he's not going to get any wickets on that pitch. If he played 20-odd matches on that pitch, I imagine he might only have 2 wickets like the rest of the seamers. So
he'd be better off bowling wrist spin.
Absolutely.
Does he stay in everybody's team for the next test, Chris Wokes? All joking aside.
He's in mine yet.
He takes on the captain's armband for me. And he opens.
Ian's shaking his head.
Yeah, I've rested him.
Oh, you're using rest and rotation?
The one person who hasn't slandered him is now dropping him. What's going on?
Listen, I gave Wokes a 6, Brandon. I'll just get that in there.
Yeah, so did I.
No, I think the concept of this, the idea of this test series was to have a look at people, wasn't it? The whole reason why Broad and Anderson aren't here is so we can have a look at people. I don't think we need to look any closer at Chris Wokes. It's not his fault that the conditions don't suit him. I think he will be back in. He does offer more with the bat, but I think we need to have a look at some people. And he doesn't make my 11 for Barbados.
What's your 11 then?
I've gone with Josh Bohannon. No, I haven't. No. Sorry, that's a running joke, Matt. It's not.
He keeps tagging me, guys, on Facebook stuff with Lancashire.
No, it's not all Lancashire. It's not all Lancashire at all.
All right.
Yeah. Lees, Crawley, Root, Lawrence Stokes, Bairstow, Folks. I don't think there's probably. I would suggest that our top 7s are identical, and we've talked about Wokes. We've talked about Overton. We've got Sicknote, Robinson, and Woods now injured. So I'm going for it. I want to see these players step up. I've gone Mahmood, Fisher, Parkinson, and Leach. Means we've got a long tail, but we've got 7 batsmen there who should be able to score plenty of runs. We've got 3 Centurions in there. We've got people who've made contributions. So yes, it's a long tail, but we keep saying we're not. Wokes shouldn't just get in because he's a better batsman and all of this kind of thing. Let's let the bowlers do their job and let's have a look at these new young lads, which is what we're supposed to be doing, and give them a go.
Now I'm not been copying, Brandon, because I know you said I was copying in the last time. I've gone for the same 11 with Fisher just not playing and Robinson playing instead of, because I think he's fit.
Oh, so you haven't got Chris Wokes either?
No, Wokes is out, mate. Sorry.
Oh, God. My God. It's fine. Whatever.
Is he right? Tell me your team then. Top 7. I think everyone picks the same top 7. We just.
I put Wokes as opening. Yeah.
Wokes at 3. Wokes keeping wicket.
He can do whatever he wants. He's the most talented cricketer in the world right now. You have the same top 8 for me, which means Chris Wokes does play. It's dependent on Ollie Robinson's fitness for me. Whether if he's fit, he comes in for Wood, and I'll probably rotate Overton out for Mahmood, and I would keep Jack Leach not as the lone spinner because we both know that he couldn't do up Dan Lawrence's laces, could he, at the moment? But yeah, so that'd be my team.
Matt, what have you got? I think you picked your top 7, didn't you?
I think I've got the same as Brandon actually. So my top 8's the same. From Lees down to Wokes, I'd keep him. I'd give him one more Test match. Wokes, back Jack Leach at 9, and then bring in Ollie Robinson and Sagit Mahmood as well. But then if we turn up maybe in the pitches, it's not going to be. This is wishful thinking. If it's a ripper, then I think Matt Parkinson could come in and you'd leave Mahmood out still.
Get 2 spinners in. We've got to go for it. I think Parkinson needs
3 already, haven't we? We've got 3 already now.
We've got about 2 spinners. We've got
Leach, we've got Lawrence, we've got Root. We're fine.
God.
Rob, what have you got? Who have you got? Who's your 4 bowlers?
Yeah, well, top 8's the same, Brandon. I've kept folks in. because,
have you kept Folkes and Stokes?
I have indeed, but the best out 6. So top 8's the same, and then I am that guy. I'm obviously Leach is in. I'm going Robinson in for Wood because Wood's out obviously, and Robinson looks like he's going to play, and he is. I do think he's off the third best seaman that we've got in England after those two that can't be mentioned. And I'm that guy. I'm going Parkinson. I'm going to Overton out, rubbish. Parkinson in, give it a rip. Why not? But I'm not head of selection. So
Ian Barron in the chat there. Have you seen what Ian Barron's picked? He's picked 11 Wokeses and Woke's 12th man. So
he can stay. He can stay.
He can stay. He's a Darlington fan, by the way.
I'll let it go if he's a fan of Wokes. Don't mind that.
There you go. Stuart Wallace says Wokes just doesn't have it outside of England. He should only
he can go.
At home.
Gov, kick him. Block him,
at
please.
Home. So we've done that. The England men's chat. Ian's going to do a little bit on the women's team, and big game tonight. I think it's early hours of the morning, isn't it?
It is. It's a must-win game, to be brutally honest. They play South Africa. They've lost the first 2 games. Although Kate Cross, Lancashire's Kate Cross, Richard, suggests that we can, and son and daughter of David Cross, the West Ham centre forward.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but no, she maintains that we can, England can still win it. I think the Australians have won 3 out of 3. They absolutely hammered New Zealand, and India hammered the Windies. So India and Australia do look the 2 strongest of the sides in the competition. England play South Africa, and then they've got a really tough one on the 16th against India. They've got New Zealand on the 19th, and then they play possibly the 2 weakest sides in the tournament in Pakistan and Bangladesh. Just hoping that it won't be all over by then. The top 4 go through to the semis, so it's going to be really tough. New Zealand have won 2 out of their 4 games, so it's not as clear cut. But the next 2 games are definitely they've got to win those 2 games to be in with a sniff. I think India on the 16th is going to be an absolutely crucial fixture.
Did anyone see the catch from, was it Dotton?
Fantastic. Absolutely. What a cricketer.
Did you see it, Brandon?
Yeah.
Great grab.
Not bad for back.
You got to give up your obsession. Come on.
Is there a Christine Wokes out there anywhere?
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah,
Pair him up. Chris Wokes needs to grow his beard back. That's what he needs them powers.
He used to look like Wolverine, didn't he? He used to look quite
great beard. Yeah. Nearly as good as Rob's beard. Not quite. Anyone? Any other business? Anyone got any other cricket chat? Any shout outs to anybody? Or how's your net going?
Yeah, back playing soon. We've got friendly on the 9th against Newmarket. So yeah, that's not too far away now. Netting. Ian's king of nets, though, aren't you, Ian? Loves the net.
I like a net. Yeah.
Is your wife called a net?
Mine is.
Very good.
Mine actually is.
Loves a net.
Yes.
If anyone is watching, we're still looking. Martin's looking for a sponsor for the show, so we want to do a few giveaways. So if anybody knows anybody, just wants to sponsor the show and just help out, drop me a message or drop Martin a message or put a message on Twitter or put it in the comments here, and we'll hook up with you. But I think we're wrapped up at 1 hour and 20 tonight, which is pretty decent. I think Martin can get some shut eye, but just a big shout out. I know this is a cricket podcast, but we have got Martin Reusser on the platform on Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Matt probably knows it. I know Matt's a Gills fan, but he's probably heard of Martin Reusser back in the day. I think he did score at Priestfield. I think about 2004 when Joe Royle was manager. So we're looking forward to having him on. Martin will be back tomorrow night with Talking Sound Extra Time. If you're watching the show back, give it a like, give it a subscribe, follow it, Talking Cricket on Twitter. Thanks to Brandon. You can go and have a cry now in the corner. Don't worry.
I'll go and cuddle up to my life-size Chris Wokes teddy.
Well, I don't want to know what you do with that. Thanks to Rob. Thanks to Ian. And thanks to Matt for a fantastic debut. Ian was going to present you with your cap. Maybe next time. We'll see you all next time, guys. Thanks very much for tuning in.